Hello ladies, on this tutorial I would like to quickly go, or well it won't be quick I'm sure, but to go through the World Music Project, just a couple of elements about it. I'll try to keep it limited to what is kind of expected of you guys for this. The basic thing about the World Music Project is that this is the main part of the class that is dealing with the idea that these are music education majors. And so the rest of the class is mainly a broad survey of world music because I don't feel that music ed majors, certainly at an undergraduate level, even after they've graduated, get enough knowledge about world music. So most of the class is with the textbook, and that's what their weekly assignments generally are. But they also each week are expected to do something with this group project that's called the World Music Project. Okay, so let me just click on this real quick, show you the elements of what's in this folder. You've got the project description, which is here. Please read through this in detail so that you know what's going on with it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me. I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to know how to respond, but this project was a collaborative effort between Pat Grutzmacher, our curriculum coordinator and head of the music ed department, as well as myself. The basic idea was mine, and then she added not only these comments here at the end, but she offered some suggestions about what to include as far as lesson plan requirements, which are here in the week 4 expectations, and then also the sort of unit overview requirements, which are in week 2. So the project has kind of two ideas to it. One is the group element of that everybody in the group is kind of cooperating on a theme for the project, be it, you'll read this in the description, but it could be a geographic location, or it could be sort of an idea like making world music instruments, and they could be from anywhere in the world. So the group project part is the theme idea, which is this unit overview requirements really. And then the expectation is that each student make an individual contribution to it, which is focusing on what these lesson plan requirements are. And again, Pat offered these from some standards in music ed. One thing I'll say real quick is that if we have questions from a music ed perspective, Kelly and I especially, I would really like to run those by Claire before I run them over to Pat. Claire has a background in music education. Kelly may not know that, but I think it's better to kind of keep it internal between the three of us for now. And if there's anything that Claire doesn't feel she can answer, then I can throw that to Pat. But I feel like that's kind of the best way for us to deal with this without having to wait on responses from Pat, which sometimes can take a while. So the group project description, go ahead and read that. That's in the folder. And then you'll see that there are discussion boards for each of the teams. Excuse me. The discussion boards, I'll go into student view here, just so you can kind of see what this looks like for the students. When you're a student, you're only going to see one of these discussion boards dedicated to whatever team you are. So I put the demo student in team 8. And the discussion board is used as the primary means of communicating with the other members of the team. Excuse me. And each of the teams has between 3 and 5 students. I think most of your teams are grouped, have 5, and then there's 1 or 2 that have 4 because we didn't have 25 students in the section necessarily. So they see the description like you did. They also see the discussion board, and then they see these other items, of which the final project submission, when the whole thing is done, that's where the lead person of the group will post it. And then the WMPO, we'll talk about probably later time. We're going to try that hopefully this week, but I just asked that this be put in here this time. I didn't use it the first time around. Students just had the discussion board to communicate with each other. But some of the other instructors have been using WMPA as a way for students to sort of meet and actually talk to each other. I don't know much about it, if it's a over the phone kind of thing or if it's a chat room or what. But some students like to interact synchronously, which is what this would be, versus asynchronously, which is what the discussion board would be, right? That they can be sort of responding at their leisure. This is everybody has to be on the computer at the same time. Okay, then there's a folder about some other resources, creating zip files, PowerPoints, and then the evaluations, which are described in your project description, or described in the project description, peer and class evals. So if you have questions about those things, you can ask me later. But anyway, so I'll go back to teach mode here into the folder. And this, you can see the same thing. It basically looks the same except that you as the instructor see all of the team boards. So what is your job, okay, with this? Your job is basically, after you've read the description and kind of know what is expected of the students, it's the same as when you're just checking the discussion boards for the units related to the textbook. You basically come down here to the bottom, and you'll see this big long list of boards, right, the team boards for the World Music Project. And so you pop in on these, and there might be a bunch of, you want to kind of see what the interaction between students are. If there's, you know, you're 3 weeks into the semester and they haven't really gotten going, or they haven't made posts for their unit overview or whatever might be expected then of that week, then you might want to make a comment like, hey, what's going on with this board? Or you might even just throw in a comment of, hey, this project is looking good. They might even ask you some questions, Dr. Foreman, could you please take a look at such and such a posting, and what do you think of this? So that's where you would look at those kinds of things. All right, so you're just checking in on those discussion boards throughout most of the semester. One thing I wanted to point out is in the project description, you see this timeline, and each week has something to do, right? So week 2, week 3, week 4, etc., etc. These weekly sort of expectations are found not only in the overall project description, but you will find them when they go into their units. They have all the stuff they're supposed to do related to the book and their exams, etc. But then they also have this folder in each week that is dedicated to the World Music Project. And these week 1, the description of what you're supposed to do in the week 1 objectives for the World Music Project, those are coming right out of the description, right, the overall description. So they can find their team board here as well as in that World Music Project folder. They've got a complete description of the project again, and those resources about creating zip and PowerPoints are there as well. But this way there's no question about what it is they're supposed to be doing for week 1. It's right there in the week 1 folder. Go to week 2, right? Here's all the stuff they would do related to their textbook. And then in the World Music Project folder, you go to that. Here's what the expectations are for week 2. Okay? And they can interact with their teammates, what have you, via the discussion boards. So that's kind of what they're doing, and that's kind of what you're doing, is just keeping tabs on those discussions and making sure the groups are, on pace with the expectations for the week. All right? Now, just to sort of project towards the end of the semester, the students have gotten their projects together and they post them on this final project submission board. Right? That's where you will read. You will take a look at that, each individual or each group project, and this is also where the other teams will have access to everyone else's project, right? So everybody in the class, the leads for each group, right? So if we have 10 groups, you're going to have 10 posts in this board at the end of the semester, one for each project, right? Actually, what I'd like to do here is to show you, I'll show you what the, while that's doing that, I'll open this up. I'll show you what the other class, the first time it went around, how this kind of looks, so you can get a sense of it. Right? This is an example of one of the projects that was done the first time the class went around, traveling the world through music. And these 5 students did a pretty good job. They were, I think, the highest rated ones in the class. I'll, if you want me to, I will send this as an attachment, or maybe I'll put it in the Dropbox and just send a link to it. You can download it to your computer. But, they've got the individual lessons plans along with that unit overview at the beginning. And again, each of the lesson plans is contributed by a single member of the team, and then they as a group kind of work them all together into the unit theme. So there's, some of the students really get into it, offering all the pictures and web links, etc., etc. They have test questions, and the idea is that a substitute teacher could walk in, use that lesson plan, and be able to teach their class without too much problem. So you can see though, it's quite long, right? So then there's some tests at the end of the project as well. Okay. So that, I forget which group that was, but let's see, that was here. This is from last year, so it doesn't look 100% the same. But final project submission. Okay. So you can see we had 5 teams last year, and I think it was Team 2. Yeah, Team 2, they made their initial discussion, or they made their post that included the project, the one I just scrolled through, that PDF, right? And then you can see other students in the class that weren't necessarily part of the team, but they're making comments about the project, what they thought of it, so that that team can get some feedback from their classmates. And the nice thing about the project is then, not only do the teammates get to use the material that they created for the project, but they also, everybody in the class gets to take advantage of the materials developed by each team. So this is an example of one of the discussion boards throughout the semester, the different threads. This is how the students are interacting with each other. And if you want to put in some comments in there, you can, right? This is what I did individually about each student. We can get more into that at the end of the semester. Okay, so I can tell I'm kind of rambling on. Sorry. The evaluations that are done, as you read in the syllabus as well as in the project description. Project description outlines exactly what questions are asked in those evaluations, right? So you've got these class evaluations, you've got a peer evaluations and instructor evaluations, and it's just a multiple choice type test. I think it's, strongly agree, neither agree or disagree and strongly disagree for a lot of the questions to see if they, kind of keep it simple like that. And that's how those are scored. This gets a little complicated to try to explain how this works, but they're not, I don't have them open right now, but that evaluations folder is where they're going to do not only the peer evaluations, which are of their own team and themselves, but also the class evaluations of the other projects, right? And again, I don't have those open right now. They open in December. But anyway, when we get to the evaluations, you'll be able to see that. All right, well, I better shut up now because I can tell I'm losing my train of thought frequently. But World Music Project, right? You can go in the folder, or they're going to find it in the individual weeks, what their expectations are, right? Are there. So if you have any questions after reading it, please let me know. It'll kind of become more clear of how it works as the semester goes along. Okay? Okay. Bye.